Sean Diddy Combs, once the king of hip-hop, no longer top music, business, and culture, but a life behind bars, a mogul, a billionaire, a man who defined a generation of music, brought low to a figure in the correctional system. The mere concept is unthinkable. But let's trace it out for what it would be if ever this tale became true. Right from the start, Diddy was not just another name in the music industry. He was a hustler, a dreamer, and a visionary who never wanted to remain small. He began as an internet uptown records, delivering messages and working late nights. He did not have the fame, he did not have the fortune, but he had the hunger. That hunger later prompted him to establish Bad Boy Records, the label that would come to characterize an era. With stars such as the notorious B.I.G., Faith Evans, Maze, and hundreds more, Diddy built not only a roster, but a movement. Bad Boy became a beacon of ambition, luxury, and domination. By the late 90s and early 2000s, Diddy was not just recording music. He was a cultural phenomenon. He hosted parties the world buzzed about for decades. He started fashion lines, booze brands, TV ventures, and became the face of hip-hop success. When you saw Diddy, you saw someone who had conquered the game. The mansions, the yachts, the private jets, nothing about him cried untouchable. He appeared to have it all. But with greatness comes scandal. Diddy's name started showing up in the papers for reasons that had absolutely nothing to do with the music. Lawsuits, accusations, rumors of violence, and speculation about what went on behind closed doors. The industry still admired him, but the shadows lengthened. Some called him a business machine. Some said there were things so dark they couldn't be dismissed. Whether true or not, his name came with both glory and suspicion. Now envision this. A crowded courtroom filled with reporters, fans outside, cameras going off with every step. The judge appears, the room falls silent. Diddy, in a suit, sits alongside his legal team. The globe watches. The sentence is announced: life imprisonment without parole. Gasps fill the room. The man who used to dominate stages, who set fashion trends, who dominated the industry, is now sentenced to spend the remainder of his life behind bars. The responses would be explosive. Some would say justice had finally prevailed. Others would say the system had brought down another influential black man. The fans would be divided, grief-stricken, outraged, bewildered. The industry itself would be rocked. What becomes of his companies, his brands, his legacy? In one night, the empire he'd built with blood, sweat, and drive comes crumbling down. Imagine Diddy stepping into prison for the first time. No cameras, no velvet ropes. No flashing lights, just cold bars, plain walls, and guards yelling orders. The man who once wore silk suits and diamond chains is now sleeping on a metal bed frame with a thin mattress. No private chefs, no bottomless bottles of champagne, just regular meals on a tray. The harsh reality of life without freedom hits him. Inside, no more Diddy the mogul. He is a prisoner. The empire he ruled is managed by lawyers, managers, and vultures flying in to grab what they can. Some of the brands implode. Some are divested. The music persists, but the man who was the face of Bad Boy can't market it, can't tour, can't even sit in a studio. The quiet is deafening. The culture itself would shift. Envision hip-hop artists who previously regarded him as a mentor or competitor responding. They would talk of betrayal, some of tragedy. Teenagers who grew up regarding him as the epitome of success would be forced to ask themselves what that success was founded on. Reporters would argue whether his legacy needed to be remembered as greatness or scandal. Every interview, every documentary, every podcast would inquire the same thing: what was Sean Combs really? But even in jail, the legend wouldn't perish. He would be a symbol to some, a cautionary tale of how power devours, to others, a martyr of a system that was too quick to condemn. His name would become immortal in songs and arguments and textbooks. But it would never be about the mogul at the top again. It would be about the man who had lost everything. And when we turn back, the question wouldn't be solely about Diddy. It would be about us. How do we treat our idols? Do we raise them to high, only to revel in their downfall? Do we tune out the rumors until it's too late? What does it mean when one of the most influential men in hip-hop takes his final bow not on a stage, but behind bars? This isn't real, not yet. But suppose it were. Suppose the empire was brought crashing down with a gavel rather than applause. Suppose the mogul was a prisoner. Suppose how the tale of Sean Diddy Combs would be written if life in prison became the last chapter. The first night, the instant the prison gates slammed shut behind him, the ring of metal on metal, ringing through deserted corridors. Diddy rests on the side of his bunk, his eyes fixed on the wall, knowing that all the excess, all the autonomy, all the power that he did have, is lost forever. He recalls the arenas packed with fans cheering his name, the scent of cigars and private rooms, the flavor of high-end champagne, and the adoration of millions. All of that is now relegated to memory. There are no entourages in prison, no bodyguards, no VIP rooms. There's only survival. The guards handle him as any other prisoner. His fame does not count here. Prisons are places where some prisoners may respect him for his humanity, but others may view him as prey. The fame that once was his defense outside may now be his weakness within. Every movement he makes, every walk he takes is under scrutiny. In this environment, trust is a commodity, and respect is gained differently. He must learn to navigate or be shattered. Meanwhile, outside the prison walls, chaos erupts. The music industry scrambles. Executives who once praised him rush to distance themselves. Contracts are canceled. Endorsements vanish. News channels run endless coverage. Social media explodes with hashtags, debates, and reactions. His name trends worldwide, but for the worst reasons. Consider the fans who grew up on him. The individuals who viewed him as a symbol of aspiration, of achieving from scratch. For them, it would be betrayal. They would analyze every lyric, every address, every moment they idolized him. The image of the perfect mogul disintegrates, giving way to the knowledge of a man with a life sentence. Some would rally for him forever. Some would delete him from playlist forever. Then there's the legacy question. What becomes of the music? Do I'll Be Missing You get played anymore knowing the man who made it is now serving life? Does the bad boy logo continue to gleam as brightly? Is his legacy remembered among hip-hop icons? Or does it get lost in scandal? This argument would rage on for years, with documentaries, interviews, and think pieces all posing the same question. Do we divorce the art from the artist? In jail, Diddy may attempt to redefine himself. Perhaps he writes novels, bestsellers, or even begins a prison revolution. Perhaps he attempts to demonstrate redemption, to bring about change, to illustrate that he is still hurt even without freedom. But whatever. The outside world has long since passed him by. New stars emerge. New moguls ascend to the throne. His empire, once unfathomable, recedes into the annals of history. But this is the darker reality. The rumors, the whispers, the allegations that pursued him for decades, those wouldn't subside. They would intensify. Every tale recirculated, every suit revisited. Those who had remained quiet could finally speak up. His name would forever be associated not only with music and entrepreneurship, but with scandal and ruin. And yet, there would be others, millions of them, who'd never let go. For them, Diddy wasn't merely an artist. He was a testament to the fact that you could start from nowhere and create everything. He was a dreamer who busted his way into an industry not designed for him. He was a hustler who converted passion into legacy. For those people, he'd be an icon, regardless of what the courts ruled. So, consider the documentaries 20 years hence. Voiceovers pronouncing he had it all, but lost it all. Consider historians arguing whether his fall was bound to happen, or if it was orchestrated. Consider young children getting to know his music for the first time, unaware of the man behind him, only the beats and the lyrics that continue to move people. Prison life would be the toughest conclusion to one of hip-hop's finest tales. A mogul who is now a prisoner. A king with no kingdom, a dreamer lost in reality. And that's the tale to envision. What if Sean Diddy Combs, the individual who constructed an empire out of nothing, concluded his tale not with thunderous applause, but with quietness, in prison for life? The first year in prison, the cameras have departed. The hashtags that used to trend every day are now lost under emerging scandals and trending stories. Diddy wakes up to the same creak of metal gates, the same number of guards, the same meal on the tray. The initial shock has worn off, but reality hits in. This isn't temporary. This is his life now. The mornings are sluggish. Gone are the aides who would knock on his door with calendars and coffee. Now the calendar is the prison's. Wake-up call at daybreak. Roll call. Breakfast in the chow hall. A long line of uniformed men, no VIP status, no special menu. He eats at the table like everyone else. And the talk is different. No discussions of deals or beats. No charts or business maneuvers. Here, respect is established via silence, strength, and survival. In the yard, there are some inmates who come up to him. Some want to shake his hand because of respect for what he did in music. Others want to test him. Whether the fame translates to weakness. Behind bars, power isn't record labels. It's knowing the right people, presenting yourself, and being able to navigate the politics. Diddy, former emperor of $1 billion operation, has to learn the unwritten rules of a whole other empire. Beyond the gates, life goes on. Music stores host ongoing retrospectives. Headlines say, from mogul to inmate, the demise of Diddy. Netflix greenlights a documentary series. Old partners are consulted. Some come to his defense, claiming he was misjudged. Others distance themselves, claiming they always knew something was amiss. Radio stations argue about whether or not they should continue playing his music. DJs refuse to drop him, citing that the music is greater than the artist. Others drop him entirely, stating that they can't disconnect the two. Bad Boy Records is a shadow of what once was. Talent leaves, the empire crumbles. His loved ones take the biggest hit. It's intolerable for his children. They have always known the world at their feet, seeing their dad helpless, industries at their father's mercy. To now have him behind bars, helpless, they go visit when they are able, but it's short of a visit. Through glass, under the eye of guards, for them, the vision of Dad the mogul has been lost to Dad the inmate. The psychological burden is immense, and the press will not leave them in peace. Social media divides into two. One half of the internet ridicules him, making his downfall memes, viral stories, and continuous reminders of his past. The other half defends him incessantly, claiming he's being targeted, framed, or persecuted for being too influential. Entire communities debate whether his case is justice served or a representation of a broken system, but the most haunting aspect is legacy. Diddy created an empire not only on music, but on the image of success, the lavish parties, the iconic music videos, the can't stop, won't stop mentality. Now, all of his motivational speeches he used to give are replayed under a new light. Footage of him speaking about power and ambition is followed by images of prison gates, making inspiration ironic. The hip-hop world grapples with his tale. Some up-and-coming rappers make him into a cautionary example. Don't get caught up in power, like Diddy did. Others continue to refer to him as a legend, unwilling to destroy him from the annals of history. Arguments can be heard on podcasts, interviews, and YouTube videos. The issue then becomes, is Diddy's fall evidence that no empire lasts forever? Inside, he begins to transform. Perhaps he starts writing. Perhaps he turns spiritual, becoming a jailhouse preacher in the chapel. Perhaps he becomes a mentor to young inmates, attempting to impart the lessons he once taught artists for the first time. There are no distractions for him. No boardrooms, no red carpets, no studio lights, just time. Time to reflect on his past, his failures, his triumphs, his enemies, and his regrets. But the world beyond does not slow down. New moguls emerge, new names rule supreme. The beat of hip-hop changes without him. His name is a memory, a legend people speak with a warning afterward. He had it all, but it all came crashing down. Years go by. Prison becomes the norm. The world hardly says his name now, only in documentaries, podcasts, or the odd article. His empire is no more. His power is no more. But his narrative still exists. A narrative of ambition, empire, scandal, and fall. And in the quiet of his cell, Diddy finally comes to confront the reality. No matter how far up you go, no matter how unreachable you believe yourself, the walls of power come crashing down at a moment's notice. The dream that once placed him atop the world has now abandoned him in the shadows. So, when we pose the question, what if Diddy received life? We're not just talking about one man. We're talking about the rise and fall of an icon. We're talking about what it means to chase power, to build empires, to live without limits. And we're asking the biggest question of all, in the end, was it worth it? As the years roll on, the media cycle changes, but the fascination never completely dies. Diddy's trial transcripts, appeals, and court wars are analyzed like textbooks in law school. Documentaries retell his ascension and downfall, with attorneys arguing whether or not the sentence was too severe, too lenient, or symbolic. Professors teach his case in courses on fame, power, and corruption. Within the prison walls, Diddy's fame both shields him and separates him. Guards watch over him closely, not with respect, but with a fear that something that happens to him will go haywire on the internet. Some inmates idolize him as the guy who used to ride with Biggie, who started legends, who revolutionized hip-hop. Others despise him, viewing him as a guy who took advantage of power and took advantage of people. Anything that happens between them is mired in tension. By his 10th year in solitary prison has remolded him. The flashy mogul of his previous life, who used to be synonymous with fur coats and diamond chains, is dressed now like everyone else. His beard is gray, his frame leaner, his eyes weighed down by the years of bearing the burden of a collapsed kingdom. Yet he adapts, he forms habits. He starts delivering short lectures in the library of the prison, talking to young prisoners about business, branding, and errors to shun. A few of them listen attentively, hoping to take his teachings into the world outside. Meanwhile, out in the world, hip-hop presses on. A new batch of moguls arrives. Billionaires with streaming services, technology firms, and global reach. They only speak Diddy's name briefly, typically as a cautionary warning, don't turn out like him. It's a bittersweet reminder for those who grew up in the 90s, and to thousands how rapidly time washes away even the most enormous stars. But some do not forget. The conspiracy theories live on. YouTube channels, podcasts, and TikTok threads keep the controversies going. Was he actually guilty? Was he framed? Did he have knowledge about the industry that led him to be silenced? Whole online forums spend their time deciphering hidden truths in his past interviews, music videos, and public performances. His name is myth, legend, cautionary tale, and mystery rolled into one. Family is the most raw segment of the story. His children mature, graduate, begin careers, and live lives with the shadow of their father's conviction. Some will not be interviewed, refusing to speak. Others do speak, reporting that in spite of it all, he remained dad. The man who raised them. The tearful interviews are broadcast on daytime talk shows, with millions watching and igniting furious debates in the comment threads. With age, health is a struggle. There are whispers of trips to the hospital, hidden illnesses, and whether he will ever make it out alive. When word leaks of his worsening state, the internet goes wild. Suddenly, everyone has an opinion once more. People who once tore him down for years now send vague prayers of statuses. Rappers perform songs in his name. The same individuals who ridiculed him for decades now call him a trailblazer. If he were to ever die in prison, the world would pause for an instant. Twitter would be full of greatest hits, him dancing in music videos, him at awards shows, him giving speeches on achievement. Some would grieve. Others would proclaim justice having been done. Nobody could deny it, however. His influence on culture was irreparable. The final question would remain, how do we evaluate a man who contributed so much to music, yet lost everything to scandal and crime? Do we honor the art, or do we destroy it? Do we say he's a legend, or do we say he's a warning? And that's the haunting strength of this story. Because in a sense, it's not about Diddy alone. It's about every individual who gets to high too quickly and thinks they are invincible. His life becomes a reflection of ambition unrestrained, of power misused, of how empires fall so fast. Ultimately, the prison doors shut not only on Diddy the individual, they shut on an era of hip-hop, a whole fantasy that stood for success and excess. His tale turns into legend, spoken in recording studios, argued in classrooms, analyzed on podcast shows, and read old in documentaries for generations to come. Because when a mogul such as Diddy does tumble, the world doesn't merely observe, it never forgets. Years become decades, and the world that knew Sean Diddy Combs eventually changes in ways he could never have dreamed. The music business he had helped create moves on without him. Streaming is king, AI-created songs lead the charts, and new legends rise. But somehow, all talk about the pioneers of hip-hop business still returns to him. His name won't go away. Within prison walls, Diddy learns patience the hard way. The man who used to live by speed, money, and attention now lives by routine. Rise with the dawn. Take count in line. Eat same food. Walk the same yard. But within the routine, he finds something he did not expect. Reflection. The quiet compels him to reflect on everything. On the choices that led him there. On the lives he touched. And on the bridges he burned. Others claim he begins to write a secret memoir. A memoir so incendiary, it will shake the industry to its foundations. Whispers circulate about pages of admissions, feuds, and backroom deals. Prisoners gossip about the Diddy manuscript, thinking it could save him or make him more of a target than before. Publishers on the outside bid for the rights, but nobody is certain whether it exists. In the meantime, the public continues to argue. Whenever there's a new documentary released on HBO or Netflix, whenever another podcast deconstructs another aspect of his history, his name is trending again. And it's always the same: outrage, nostalgia, conspiracy, and more young people who never even lived through his time discover his music, his interviews, his history. By his 20th year within, something changes. Diddy, grayer and older, slower in gait, assumes the position of mentor. Younger prisoners come to him not as mogul, but as educator. He starts operating on-the-job seminars and branding, leadership and toughness. If I can create an empire with nothing, you can too, he instructs them for the first time. His authority is not in celebrity or in currency, but in knowledge. Outside, fans campaign for his release. Petitions circulate. Activists argue that keeping him in prison for life serves no purpose anymore. Some call him rehabilitated. Others still believe justice hasn't been fully served. The debate becomes political, dividing communities, sparking protest, and even getting airtime on major news networks. Then there is the ultimate surprise: rumors of a potential pardon. Presidents make way, the political wind changes, and in smoke-filled rooms, Diddy's name is among high-profile prisoners who could set themselves free. The internet erupts. Some opine that he should be given another chance. Others argue that it would be an injustice to his victims. And yet, lurking in the back of everyone's mind, there is one question that reigns supreme. If Diddy ever is released, what would he do? Would he attempt to rebuild his empire? Would he exist quietly in the shadows? Or would he return bigger than ever? Before, determined to rebrand his legacy, that question keeps everybody on the hook. Fans, critics, and media. Because whether they loved him or hated him, nobody could deny his charisma. He was a mogul, but more than a mogul. He was a scandal, but more than a scandal. He was a symbol of ambition, excess, and the razor-thin line between greatness and collapse. If he died in prison, his name would forever be synonymous with tragedy. But if he ever left the confines of the prison walls, even after all these years, it would be one of the greatest musical comebacks of all time. A broken king returning to the world he used to rule, with the memories of prison and the burden of legend. And that's why his tale remains. Because in the hearts of everyone, there is a desire to know how it finishes. The years go by. Decades disappear. And Sean Diddy Combs, the man who personified wealth, power, and scandal, becomes a faint shadow of his former self. His name is still emblazoned on hip-hop history, but his limbs ache, his voice hoarse. Time renders even the mightiest kings humble. Then, it occurs. 3 decades behind bars. Rumblings go up and down the prison corridors. He's being released. A political arrangement, a presidential pardon, a silent agreement. Nobody is privy to the terms. But the documents are signed, and the gates swing wide. The world outside has changed beyond recognition. TikTok stars dominate music. AI generates beats faster than any producer. And entire generations only know Diddy from documentaries. Yet when he steps out, cameras still flash. Headlines still explode. He is older, slower, but his presence hasn't dimmed. His first words are not to the media, not to his fans, but to himself. A whisper under his breath. I'm still here. Following is not the response some anticipated. He doesn't stalk the charts. He doesn't host parties. And he doesn't attempt to restore the empire. Instead, he starts talking, not as mogul Diddy, but as Sean Combs, the human being. Churches beckon him. Universities request appearances. Even prisons invite him to speak to the next generation of lost cousins. The same media that labeled him a monster years ago now can't help but ask, has he changed? And for the first time in his life, perhaps he has. But life is not a fairy tale. For every individual who sings his redemption, there are others who never forget. Victims still cry out. Families still bear wounds. The internet continues to be torn. Redemption or manipulation, changed man or the same man in disguise. The argument never dies out. In the last chapter, Diddy withdraws to be alone. No parties, no headlines, only silence. Some believe he's writing again, completing that long-rumored memoir. Others believe he's getting ready to leave one final imprint. A truth bomb the world is not ready for. And then, late one evening, word comes through. Sean Diddy Combs has died peacefully in his sleep. No drama, no scandal. Just the passing of a life which once shook the world. The response is immediate. Murals pop up in the New York streets. Classic albums surge back up the music charts. Fans weep, critics ponder, and the internet is filled with one question. Who is the real Diddy? Was he the genius tycoon who brought hip-hop to a world empire? Or was he the cautionary example of unchecked power? Perhaps. He was both. Ultimately, his tale is legend. A man with everything, who lost everything, and still declined to vanish. His life sentence wasn't merely the bars of the prison. It was the burden of his decisions, the reverberations of his name, and the stretch of his shadow across a whole culture. And as his empire fell, there was one thing that was still true. Sean Combs, Diddy, Puff Daddy, whatever his alias, could never be forgotten, because even in failure, he was the one thing he had always claimed to be, a legend who would not die.